I can take you high. Oh, I'm on fire. Sometimes.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. It's 6:33. It's January 29th. It is Thursday. It is cold in the Northeast. Even me gets a little chilly. The fingers a little cold. My ice barrel in the backyard can't even open up. It's fully frozen. So I used the one downstairs, the Atlantic. But anyway, feeling good, getting ready for another day. These days are long. These days are tough. These days you need to have your right mindset, your endurance. A lot of things are working. Some things are a pain in the ass. And that's what trading is, dealing with the things that are a pain in the ass, getting rid of them and trying to stay with what's working and not get on tilt and not have FOMO and, just keep yourself thinking clearly so you don't do anything dumb. Number one rule in trading, like Fight Club. We don't talk about Fight Club. You don't want to do things that are dumb. But anyway, it is earnings season. There's a lot of movement. Last night, some guys made some really good money trading after hours. Anyway, my name is Scott Redler. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com. Welcome to today's, I was going to say morning call. It's not the morning call. The morning call is at 8:15. This is the 6:30 Club. I've been doing this pretty much since 2020. But anyway, here we are. Futures are up a little bit. The Fed's behind us. Thank goodness. They didn't no curveballs, basically. They weren't expected to do anything. And they were kind of, mixed. They're data dependent, market dependent, which is what everyone expected. And here we are. Let me say hello to some of my dogs this morning. Who do we got? We got BP, good morning. Record cold in Florida. The iguanas are going to be falling off trees. Blizzard expected coming this weekend, hopefully Sunday, because I'm going to be going to Florida tomorrow morning on a 6:30 flight to be the keynote speaker at the Market Rebellion Active Trader Conference. Anyway, good morning. Good morning, GP. Yeah, Bruce is political lately. What the hell's the matter with him? I hear you. Anyway, can you guys hear me now? You could hear. Hello. No sound. Do you guys hear sound? Tell me can you guys hear sound? I think you guys were just listening to the radio. Anyway, so let's get to it. So here are the cues. Cues are right here. This is 6:30, 6:59. This is what, 6:37. Seems like the cues are on the verge of breaking out, after a channel that's been intact since October 29th. So you have November, December, January. For 3 months, the cues have been going sideways. So perhaps you see some traction above that spot. SPYs look good too. SPYs made a small little high yesterday, with a lot of specific action. You have 694 held. They didn't even on a normal Fed day, they gyrate, they squeeze some shorts, they do a bunch of things, and they couldn't even do that yesterday. So anyway, it's hanging out in here. The SPYs right now are up a buck. What is it? $1.49. So coming in a little bit below yesterday's high. Usually you get a trend type day after the Fed, so we'll see for today. And there's a lot of specific action, it's very. Look at this. So you have Meta up 55 in the gap. You have Microsoft, down 33. Then you have ServiceNow, down 11, and then you have Tesla up 12. So if you played option plays for earnings, a lot of people get all anxious about these lotto plays. With Meta, we talked about you could buy a 680 by 705, 710. So if you took a call spread, you made money. You didn't even have to do it. You could have waited. Meta was down yesterday, $20. And then when they upped their guidance, the stock took off, and it gave you a bull flag to trade against last night before it went into the gap. Look at this gap right here. So being prepared, knowing where your gap was, could have made a lot of money once you got above 680. 680 to a gap fill here, 742. There's a lot of money there. And then if you look at Meta itself, and you get, just say you want to do one of your after hours charts, which which you could have used yesterday also. Right here's Meta. Um, Remember yesterday, had a nice looking bull flag after hours, went first, and then you could have drew on your parameters. If you trade after hours, I'm just saying, some people ask me, how do you trade after hours? A name, and instead of having to wait all day, you could just wait literally. It's just like a half hour. So this was your first move sideways, been a buyer versus there, and another $30 versus taking call spreads. But anyway, Microsoft was the opposite. Microsoft got crushed. Now what some people are like, what do you do with Microsoft now? Well, this is 453. It's below it. So what's this low here? This low here for Microsoft is 438. So I guess you'll see if today, so the question is, will Microsoft make its low in the first 15 minutes to trade verse? I'm not going to trade Microsoft, to be honest. I don't really care about it. And I'm not at this point, well, I want to let to see, what happens with both of these to see how the candles form versus just anticipating. ServiceNow, I think, is interesting. ServiceNow has been battered and bruised, kind of dead. Like, holy cow, like they've really crushed the software sector. ServiceNow is 230 down here at the lows. This low here is what? This is 123.78. ServiceNow is 123.78. You had the CEO ranting and raving on how, AI is not killing software; it's actually enhancing it. So if let's take all this away for right this second, whereas ServiceNow, it's below. So I would think, this could be interesting, to see whether or not A reclaims 123. Again, look where it was, or not. So this is 123.78. It's now trading at 118. So perhaps, wait for this to put a low in and then buy versus that low. And if it happens to reclaim 123, you have yourself a good trade there. And Microsoft's a piece of junk for now. Listen, there's some things working really well and there's some things that aren't, right? What's working really well? A lot of guys in my community made a ton of money on iron. I went over this trade with the guys from TrendSpider that I don't even know how to get this off of here now. We put he was teaching us how to put like an active alert on TrendSpider. We were buying options on this day, added the stock on this day, and got paid. Like this is a nice trade. Like these type of trades is what should make a living. You should make a living in those type of trades. A living, and they're hard to find. That's why you need to be patient as a trader. Hard to find a great trend that has power that you could buy high and sell higher. It's been absolutely fantastic. CIFR, not so fantastic, but maybe it's getting a little closer. Just saying, sometimes they move in a group, sometimes they don't. So some guys like, when will this play catch up? I don't know. Right now, I'm in some of it, but it's not showing the power. What else has been absolutely fantastic? ASTS, absolutely fantastic. Look at this trend. This is when it reignited again on January 2nd. We got very involved in ASTS again, traded it through 102, went to 120, came in, and then look at that. You could have bought it versus support. Little red dog reversal around 103. That was a great trade. So there are some great trades out there, and then there's some trades that aren't so great. A lot of people like beating me up, like, oh, red dog, Joby. You know what happens? It was sitting here on support. We had a really nice trade last year. You had a decent trade to start the year. I'm long options, and then last night I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I hear the news. I'm waiting for Tesla and I'm trading Meta, and then all of a sudden Joby secondary. So I was able to hit out some shares, and and now Joby's lower. It happens in trading. This happens. What are you going to do about it? It's down $1.66. Small companies need money to fuel their growth, and I'm in a lot of options here, and this is going to cost me a shitload of money, unfortunately. So with that being said, as good as there are a lot of great trades, there are some potholes out there. And if you have a thesis on something where you're accumulating it, sometimes you can make a lot of money accumulating it, and then technically it ignites, then you make real money, huge money, and sometimes it costs you money. And this right now has cost me some money. It is what it is. Poet hasn't cost me any money. Poets have made a ton of money. because I sold strength, and that's raising money also. I will say what another thing that's kind of annoying. We want to talk about annoying things on a Thursday is this, MSOS. It's, guys at the hammer in the industry, they're like, this is nothing, so kind of accumulating some calls for what's it called, for February and March, and it's just, for 5 years they've been crying wolf in this sector, and there's been a little bit of money here and there. It's not a focus. It's just little annoying things that aren't real trades. Basically, if the technicals don't really support a thesis, it's just not a trade. It's then an investment. An investment is a bad trade, and until it turns into a good trade, and then you can manage it. But anyway, Nvidia was decent yesterday. I made some really good money in Nvidia also. It got to exactly where I said I was going to get, to the 193 area. I'm still in some. I don't know. Anybody, how do I get this little thing off of here? I'll get it off, take us. This is kind of annoying. But anyway, going sideways really tight. I was a buyer of 192.50s and 195s, and yesterday into the up open, I was able to make double on my options. Double. It's pretty good. So anyway, for now, Nvidia is off a little bit because they're saying that now they don't know if they could sell in China. Every day, who the hell's reporting on this stuff? They can sell in China. They can't sell in China. They can't, whatever. Bottom line is, I'm still in some Nvidia. It's been a good trade. It hasn't been a powerful trade. It hasn't been in MU. Look at MU. MU's been absolutely in fuego for people. A lot of guys in my community are in MU from 246, or when it got through 268. It's been above the 8 days since. Most guys that have swing trade strategies, this is one of them. When you have like Trader Stewie says, I know Trader for him for a while, when you have a pro earnings gap, you buy the day after, you put your stop in here, and then you could put your other stop in at the 21-day or the 8 day. Look at that move in MU. Same thing with SanDisk. SanDisk has been above the 8 day. Look at this trade. The hard trades are the trades that are working. The ones that you think might play catch up have been a lot more difficult. RDW, what's wrong with that? RDW has been a great trade also. RDW, we started here in January at $8. It went to 14. Is that a bad trade? No, that was a great trade. That was also a little bit of a concept, a little bit tricky, but anyway, I would be smaller. Where is it now? It's up 50 cents at 13.80. So you trim into strength and buy a dip, and you go with it. Anyway, with that being said, you do have a lot of earnings tonight. Rocket Labs, it's not as good as ASTS. I'm in some of it. You could go like this. Here, you want to take this line, put this below here. You could say, okay, you're going to stay with Rocket Labs as long as it holds this little spot here, which is 86-ish. I think it's fine. It's just not as fast as ASTS. The same way CIFR isn't as fast as iron. So what do you want to do? Maybe just stay with the leaders and not look for the group. That makes some sense, right? Did I hold POD overnight? Of course. It's not a focus. You guys focus on the wrong things. All right. This is a concept spec trade that when it gets in motion might have a nice move to 15, 16, 20. Here, it got in motion again. When it took back the moving averages, I was buying it. I added to it. In here, near the old highs, you're a seller. So now I'm accumulating it again because they just did another money raise because they have a lot of things that they need to, facilitate, manufacture, whatever it is. So this is just, if you can't handle this, these aren't, if you're trading and you want to get paid in January or get paid in February or get paid in March, these are not positions for you to be in. Okay, this is a position to be in. This is a trade. This is, a stock that had a nice bull flag, was in motion, made a lot of sense. That is something you should be trading if you want to get P&L for January and get paid, not an IRA or whatnot. Yeah, crypto's been awful. True, crypto has been very awful, and it has not been silver. Look at silver, holy cow. And some people are like, Red Dog, I made a ton of money in silver short. I'm like, when did you make money in short? Like I tried it on this day and I made good money in 3/4 of my position, and I left 3/4 of my position on. I would just puts. I'm not shorting this. I'm not shorting silver. I'm not shorting gold. If you're going to do anything, buy some puts. And then on this day, when it reversed and it went back below and back above, I'd sold more. and then gave back there. And now it looks like it's going to take out 106.70. The real money is here, buying the 8-day, buying the 21-day, sticking with the trend, not trying to be cute. And we had it here. This was when most of the guys put on a meaty trade when it got above 49 and a quarter, and then it turned into a manage the trend. And now gold. This trade has been unbelievable too. Anyway, a lot of guys that have accumulated gold are just piecing it out. And if you've been trading it same way through points above the 821 day, you're making a ton of money. Not trying to be cute. This is now 495. That was yesterday's high. Wow. And now it's up another 12. Some people like, can I short gold today? This is a tough trade. It's up 14. It's at 507. Look where the 8-day is. You can't buy gold today. You just can't do it. You missed it. There have been like 5 setups that were buyable that were a little bit more calculated than just massaging the trade. So today you can't buy it. Can you short it today? Maybe. But again, you're carving out 5 points, which could make you money. I get it. I might try it today also. Maybe, put on some puts today. Am I still accumulating Joby? I have options. I'm going to wait for the stock to make a low today, and maybe I add it back. It's not a hyper focus. It's not trading. It's still in a range. There's no real setup there. Tesla will be interesting. Tesla, it's been doing a whole lot of nothing. It's in a kind of a bit of a channel here. We'll see how much of today's gap holds for Tesla. I love when Tesla's in play. Tesla turns into a great trade. Like, this is a trading awesome vehicle when it's special. Right now it hasn't been special. It's up 12. I don't know if you could buy it today up 12. I'm going to watch it. I have options on. Chances are I might salvage some of them. I thought maybe if, something exciting happens, you can get above 452, 454, which it might still. But I'm just going to salvage it and then see how much of today's gap holds, and then see if I could buy versus a gap pivot. Like, a lot of times you could do that. You were able to buy versus a gap pivot in Micron. This is your gap pivot. You could have bought versus that. There are names that you could buy versus and let it go. ASML, not this time. The last 2 times you're able to do it. So maybe Tesla will give us a point of reference to trade against or not. Other than that, at 650. The SPYs itself are up a bunch. We're near an all-time high. 697 has been a nice trend. Remember last week, I'm like, can it hold mid-level? And then you had a nice move. Now, if it holds 694, it could probably make another scenario. Iron's earnings aren't until next week. Vert, a lot of guys on my alpha team are trading Vert. I haven't been. Looks really good. My buddy Todd loves this name. Looks like it's ready to make new highs. So there are a lot of names out there that are working well, that are above the 8 and above the 21 day. So I get it. Caterpillar guide, sales and revenues around top end. Okay. Well, what about XLE, guys? That's been awesome. XLE has been a focus. XLE, we were buying options in here. I'm still in the XLE calls. Every time it's pulled in, I've been adding to it and selling it. And I still have, what do I have on the XLE? XLE calls are, where are they? They are, I have the 47s for January 30th. So I'm going to probably sell them today. The XLE is having a nice move. Whereas the XLE this morning, it's up another 75 cents. Every day I do my sector work. I do 40 charts. I put them in the alpha team. They go in the alerts. Or some people who are trying out the open house. And this has been a really good sector trade. I haven't really been trading the sectors. I've been trading the stocks in the sectors, and I've been fading premium higher, which has been working as a hedge. But this has been a really big long for us since here, and it's working really well. So hopefully it's working for you. Blair's in the XLEs and the CVX. I talked to you guys about CVX a bunch of times. I'm not in CVX, but we were talking about it here, and it's it played catch up to XOM, which was one of the lead. Look at that move in XOM. So anyway, I don't really trade this sector with, but I could have done more. Instead, I just took the lazy approach and bought calls in here and sold some, bought some, sold some, and I bought more. And now today I will get rid of the rest of my January 30s and book it. Yes, Apple earnings is tonight. It's hard to tell what Apple's going to do tonight, to be honest. Apple just had a bit of a broken bounce. Um, if you remember, I was telling you guys on Tuesday, you could short Apple, didn't I? I was like, this was Friday, this was Monday. I'm like, you could sell strength, put a topping tail, and came in. So this is just a range trade like everything else. Apple, at this point, it's hard to tell. It's in no man's land. It's kind of like a Microsoft. It's obviously different than a Microsoft. I'm just saying it's like it's broken. Maybe the iPhone's demand has been decent. Maybe they say something exciting like a foldable phone sooner than later. I put on some options into this weakness. I bought the 262s yesterday just to have, because again, just, it's one of my bread and butter stocks. And when it's on the move, I feel bad if I'm not in it. So I have a bunch of that. What's FXI doing today? FXI is up 33 cents. If you guys remember, I was buying the FXI. I should have bought more BABA, but I was buying FXI calls on Monday. Not so bad. I drew this wedge for you guys. I posted the wedge, okay, right here. And now all of a sudden it's above 40.70. Nice little move. So you listen, if you have 18 positions on, 4 probably aren't going to work. And then 14, if you're good, will work. I probably have about 18 positions on. 4 have been tricky, 4 have been awesome, and 10 have been like this, where you could buy it and piece it off. If you can't handle that many positions, focus on 3. That's 4, or maybe 2, or maybe just day trade. Do things that work for you. And every now and then there is some annoying things that happen in trading. That's why you want to get up early. That's why I get in the sauna every day. I do a 20-minute workout. That's why I get in my ice barrel, because I need to wash off things that don't work, that are annoying, so I can move forward and go with what's working and keep my mind strong. So when things are showing continuity and you're moving and grooving and you're in a great rhythm, there's nothing better. But when you have a bunch of things that kind of like irk you, like the other day, this NN was annoying, right? A lot of guys that I know from for years are building a huge position in this, and like, I don't care when it works, it's going to be 25. For me, I was in the stock, I was in a lot of options, looked like they were going to be on the docket, and instead that happened. So that was an annoying thing that happened this week, but it happens. If it was on the docket and it was 22, I'd be like, instead they weren't on the docket. It's got to be pushed out maybe to March or April. So get stopped out of the shares, and now I'll just be in the options and see what's next. There you go. You should go out. I'm leaving tomorrow morning at 6:30. I'm going to be speaking with the Nigerians and Mark, and going over the longevity in trading. Considering I've been trading since 1998, I've seen really talented traders blow up. I've seen really mediocre traders get better and last longer. I've seen so much in the last 25 years. So I'm going to talk about some things that I've learned and help everyone's learning curve a little bit. So if you want to come, I'll be there tomorrow, and I'll be in my seat today. And if you're testing out the open house, congratulations, and let's see how it goes. All right, guys, good luck today.